Welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm Iain.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to talk about Mike Judge movie Office Space from 1999. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Peter, who is a software engineer and works at Initech. He's kind of got himself into a rut in his job where he just hates it. And his relationship's going a bit sour where he believes his girlfriend is cheating on him. He goes to an occupational hypnotist who hypnotizes him into not caring about his job. Mid-hypnosis, the hypnotist dies and leaves Peter in kind of like a catatonic state when it comes to his work.
This is a film by Mike Judge, who's probably most well known for his Beavis and Butthead series and also his other animated series, King of the Hill, which for me is not the best in terms of animated entertainment, but what it does is something that no other animated feature does, and that is just portray normal people in sort of everyday-ish sort of environments.
Yeah.
Office Space takes everything that he's worked on before and just puts it in a feature movie with live actors. Office Space also came out in 1999, 2 years before The Office, the TV series.
Yeah.
And, of course, before the American remake. And again, it's something that's could be considered uncomfortable to watch, especially when it's playing very close to a working day sort of environment.
Yeah.
If you've worked in an office, this film will speak to you almost straight away.
Yeah.
If you've ever been stuck in traffic on the way to work, just like the opening of this movie, you're almost instantly sympathetic with that character. As he's just sat there and he's watching the old man go past on the cinema frame, you're just like, you know what, fuck it. It'd be quicker if I got out of the car and walked to work today.
It does. This film just takes everything that's mundane about a normal working job, a normal Monday to Friday lifestyle, and just... It doesn't poke fun at it. It actually just lays out and says, do you have anything in common with this person? And so many people will sit there and go, yep, that's me. That's me Monday to Friday just wanting to kill my fucking boss. I remember the first time I watched this and didn't actually enjoy it. There was just I didn't get the jokes. I was waiting for real comedy to come along and smack me in the face. But
I'm with you on that. I also, the first time watching this film back when it came out, prior to actually working in an office space, I didn't enjoy the film either.
Yeah, I just, like I said, it just didn't enjoy it. But then working in an office and working in those little cubicles with all these people around you, where you just that woman who sits behind Peter and she's like, please hold, and you're just like, fucking shut the fuck up. You know, the photocopier that won't work, the guy who's got his radio too loud, all these little things. Mike Judge just goes, this is normal, and you realise how funny it is because of how normal it is.
Want to go to Chachki's? Get some coffee?
Oh, it's a little early.
I gotta get out of here. I think I'm gonna lose it.
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
This film is a complete reflection of reality, of life, and it only exaggerates those points just enough for the humour to kick in and for that sort of familiarity to still be there, especially with sort of the friends that he has actually in the office, right down to sort of Milton's character, who this movie is it's based on a short animated series on this character Milton, who is sort of a small character in the film. He's just part of that sort of ensemble. Yeah. But a lot of the jokes sort of resonate with him or from him, and it was the first time watching the film that was what annoyed me watching the film, was to see this little man be so humiliated by everyone around him, and because it is you see these corporate sleazy kind of people that just have no respect for anybody, and it's really cold. And the film portrays that lightheartedly. Yeah. And so the first time watching it, I found that quite offensive. But rewatching it now, the Milton character is pretty key to the entire movie. Yeah. Because everything sort of happens around him, whether he's impacting on it, or whether he's aware of it or not, it still all comes back down to the Milton character.
Yeah, if you've seen it, then you know exactly who we're talking about. But if you haven't seen it, Milton is just so iconic. It's the guy playing him, Stephen Root. He's played all of these other characters in all these other productions as well, and kind of has played the same character multiple times in the future, where he is this quiet little man who's obviously just being pushed aside by everybody else. But just certain key scenes where Milton is just mumbling. He mumbles through his lines so brilliant, and you sit there and you just hear him say little key words here and there, like I can have my radio up at so much from like 7 to 11, and just say that's my stapler, and you can't help but laugh at him. It's just so brilliantly put across.
Well, I told Bill that if Sandra's going to listen to her headphones while she's falling, then I should be able to listen to the radio while I'm collating. So I don't see why I should have to turn down the radio, because
all right, okay.
I enjoy listening at a reasonable volume.
Thanks.
From 9 to 11.
He himself is kind of, I felt, is the padding surrounding all the other characters. We have Peter, played by Ron Livingston, who, after breaking up with his girlfriend, or his girlfriend breaking up with him, sets out to try and woo Jennifer Aniston. And like we said, it coming out in 1999, she'd already established herself as a bit of a film actress in Leprechaun. And then obviously gone on to do Friends in 94, 95. So in 99, when I saw her in this, I don't find the big draw about her. You know, well, I don't have anything against her, but she's just not. She's not a brilliant actress, shall we say.
She was on the rise to massive stardom at this point, obviously, prior to her relationships that, just became like forefront in the press of gossip news.
Yeah.
Jennifer Aniston was one of the most sort of celebrated, beautiful actresses. Although, to say, I enjoyed Friends on its first run, although the tedium of that show quickly kind of sunk in. Jennifer Aniston in all of her movies has never been exceptional or outstanding, no. But in this movie, she feels genuine. She feels like a real person. And if you've ever wanted to know how easy it is to ask Jennifer Aniston out, watch Office Space.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to go next door and get a table, and if you'd like to join me, no big deal, all right? And if not, that's cool, too, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I love the mirroring between Peter's work in the office and her work as a waitress. Yeah. Both of them have really annoying bosses. Both of them have really annoying rules and regulations that they have to follow. They're both being paid pretty much pennies for what they do. And I actually thought that was a really key element of the story, was the fact that, even though Peter is this big software engineer who's probably gone through college and is trying to get this job to pay off his debts, she's working the exact same kind of work and trying to make the money so that they can just survive, but absolutely hating their jobs.
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
Yeah, everyone is in the same boat. Everyone. In the movie, in real life. Everyone pretty much has a 9-to-5 job. And it's soul destroying after a while. Yeah. When you do the same grind day in, day out. And Peter, the main character of the movie, when he has that sort of don't give a fuck attitude, he goes on to say that he's not lazy. He just doesn't care. Yeah. And that, for me, is sort of like the message of the movie. It's not something we should all take to heart wholly, but if everyone could just take a part of that ideology and just make it a part of yourself, where you can not make, just to the point where work isn't an all-consuming deity to which you must worship 9 to 5. Make it something that is actually enjoyable. And obviously, we follow this character. The excuse is that he's in this sort of half trance, but he gets to the point where he's like, I'm not going to go to work. I'm not going to pay my bills. I'm just going to kind of sort of become an anarchist. And what I really like with the humor of the movie is that the consultants that are brought in to evaluate the company take a shine to him. Yeah. And they're just like, he needs to be promoted to management. And I'm just like, that is it.
The thing is, Bob, It's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
Don't care?
It's a problem of motivation, all right? Now, if I work my ass off and Initech ships a few extra units, I don't see another dime. So where's the motivation?
I mean, it's like a joke, but it's kind of true.
It's true. He walks in with this really, some people would say really bad attitude. Some of the managers do say, oh, we should get rid of him because, he's turning up late. He's not doing the work that we're setting for him. And the consultants sit down with Peter, and Peter's just like, I can do the work. I just don't care about it. And they're like, done. And I sit there going, wow, I've been in places like that. You've got workers who will grind their ass to the grindstone as much as they can to suck up to the bosses. Yet the bosses are actually, more excited about the guy who comes in wearing a colourful shirt. Because at least he's enjoying his job instead of just ticking the I's and dotting the T's.
Peter Gibbons. Now, we had a chance to meet this young man, and boy, that's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him.
Ooh, yeah. I'm gonna have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there. Yeah, he's been real flaky lately.
John C. McGinley, he's just got the most intense look about him all the time. And even though he's just sort of another minor character in the film, he does have some fantastic scenes, especially in the boardroom sort of meetings.
Yeah.
Every line of dialogue is just playful and witty, and it will make you chuckle.
Yeah, Bill, let me ask you a real quick question here. How much time would you say you spend each week dealing with these TPS reports?
I do want to bring up Samir and Michael Bolton. Peter's friend. This nerdy guy who loves his gangster rap but will shy away from fights. And just the way that everybody says the same thing to him. They're like, ooh, Michael Bolton. Any relation to? And he's like, no. I fucking hate that guy. And it just makes me remember how much I fucking hate Michael Bolton too.
Guess you got a case of the Mondays. There are a lot of recurring gags in the film, just like the Michael Bolton gag keeps turning up throughout the film. There's a running gag near the beginning where he keeps getting messages about whether or not he got the memo. And we also have one of the most irritating bosses ever, I think, in cinematic history. He is one of the most quotable characters in the film. And that is just because of the way he delivers all of his lines.
Yeah.
Hello, Peter. What's happening?
Hi, Milton.
What's happening? So, Peter, what's happening?
Over him.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great. It's the fact that when he's having the horrible sort of nightmare hallucination and he sees Lumberg having sex and he's just there with his coffee, that'd be great.
What the fuck? I totally forgot about that scene. I sat there watching it and he's having this dream sequence. You just see Gary Cole there just going at it with this cup of coffee in his hand. Like, yeah. Could you just scooch over to the left a bit? That'd be great.
What's happening? Could you give me those TPS reports ASAP? Okay.
And you just want to run up and wrap that coffee cup around his fucking face. But like we said, many people watch this film and go, "That's my boss. It's my boss right there in a fucking nutshell."
Completely, and that's why the film is so good, because it captures these caricatures fantastically well.
Lawrence. Best character ever.
My favourite character in the movie also.
It's the way they just talk through the walls and Lawrence just comes in and he's just like, yeah man, I just get up and go to work, I work outdoors all day. I think one of my all-time favourite scenes is the $1 million question.
I was just about to ask you, Ian, what would you do with $1 million?
2 chicks.
At the same time?
At the same time.
Damn.
Lawrence, what would you do if you had $1 million?
I'll tell you what I'd do, man. 2 chicks at the same time, man.
That's it? You had $1 million. You'd do 2 chicks at the same time?
Damn straight. I always wanted to do that, man. And I think if I were a millionaire, I could hook that up, too, because chicks dig dudes with money.
Ultimately, it builds up to Peter realizing that he's getting all this attention from these 2 new consultants, and people are being laid off, and his 2 friends, Samir and Michael Bolton, are laid off and come up with an idea of instigating a money virus into the computer system, which would shave off so many half pennies from so many accounts that the company they're working for is dealing with.
Like everything else in the 20th century, Gus. You push buttons.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, they did in Superman 3.
Right.
Yeah. Underrated movie, actually.
It takes a lot more money than they actually figured, and they spend a lot of a quarter of the film trying to justify their motivation of stealing this money. And you kind of sit there and you think, well, on one hand you're taking from the company because they've taken so much from you, so you're kind of taking back what you're owed. But on the other hand, you actually sit there going, no, you're absolutely stealing. You're stealing from other people, so it is completely wrong. So there's this nice little character change midway through the film where Peter kind of comes out of that.
He becomes a criminal essentially, and he sort of leads everyone around him in this downward spiral.
Yeah,
which is of course the film's way of counterbalancing the kind of life decisions he's made, is to go, you know what, fuck everything.
Yeah,
because that will eventually lead you into a spiral of criminality or the prospect of life in jail.
Yeah.
So it does sort of hit that balance quite nicely. And of course, this being a sort of romantic comedy, essentially, once he understands the errors of his ways, just like any traditional trope of this type, everything sort of finds its equal balance towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
And it does work.
I love the fact that when they're talking about this money virus, they just keep bringing up Superman 3. And I just love that, because Superman 3, not the best movie. Not the best movie by far. Not as bad as Tekken, but not the best movie. But the idea behind Richard Pryor shaving off all this money here and there, it works with computers even nowadays. It's so awesome.
Completely agree.
Ain't that something? Jumped on the 110. She's flying in the blazer like Ghost Speed Racer, but I ain't gonna chase her like Racer Rex. But I won't flex till it's time to have sex.
I'm gonna have to say, I think my favourite scene in the film, other than the neighbour, and all of the times where Peter's just having conversations in his flat, and then the characters leave, and then all of a sudden the neighbour will shout something across. You almost forget that the neighbour's there listening to every single conversation.
Yeah.
So that joke, it pays off every single time.
Lawrence, you awake?
Yeah.
You want to come over?
No thanks, man. I don't want you fucking up my life too.
But I think my favourite scene in the movie has got to be the scene where they take the printer outside into a secluded little area.
That fucking printer.
And beat the shit out of it with a baseball bat. If you have ever worked in an office or ever owned a printer that gave you errors that were incomprehensible, or just jammed paper, or told you there was a paper jam when there wasn't even any paper in it, you will understand why this scene is brilliant on so many levels.
An erection that shows no affection. They want to ban us on Capitol Hill, cause it's die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers.
All along it was the ghetto, nothing but the ghetto. Taking short steps, 1 foot at a time, and kept my head low and never let go. Cause if I let go, then I'd be spineless. I'm going insane.
I think my mind just goes out of control and touch on subjects, motherfuckers.
Not only that, I think Family Guy even parodied this exact scene with Stewie and Brian, and they just copied that scene beat for beat. So I think that kind of message, it's still relevant today, because we are still getting pissed off with technology when it fails us.
I love that scene. You've got the hip hop music playing in the background, so it really just gets you pumped to fucking beat the shit out of this poor printer. And it's that, like I said, that nerdy guy. He really just starts fucking wailing on it, fucking beating it down like it's a person. It's absolutely brilliant. My favourite scene, I have so many. Any of the Milton scenes are just absolutely stand out. The cake sequence with him is fucking hilarious.
It's devastating.
And the way they just keep moving his desk until he's completely in the basement of the company and they're trying to completely forget about it.
They turn the lights off.
Yeah. Any of the scenes with Gary Cole as well as Lumberg, every time you see him, you want to avoid him, but then as soon as he turns up and he starts talking to you, you just want to fucking punch him.
Your heart sinks.
And he's all of his lines are just completely quotable. You'll be saying them for fucking hours. Any of the scenes with Lawrence, the neighbor, Peter for me is a really cool character, but he goes up and down and he's in a good place and everybody else is feeling shit, and then he's in a bad place and everybody else is telling him to feel better. It's a bit of a roller coaster, but having Lawrence there as this guy, like, you take life too seriously sometimes, get the fuck out, it just really keeps you going.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
Watch out for your cornhole, bud.
Okay, Lawrence.
I highly recommend Office Space. I'm surprised at myself that I am, because like I said, the first time I watched it, I wasn't blown away by the humour. I didn't sort of get the jokes. I thought it was very flat and the pacing was off. Watching it now, I really appreciate the movie, because now I recognise all these character types. I've seen them in working environments.
Yeah.
And even though the film, they are exaggerated, it's still that familiarity and recognisable sort of nature of them just makes them more heartwarming characters.
Yeah.
The film does it doesn't really get preachy with its message. The characters are all very likeable. And the film's simple message is just to enjoy life. And I think the film delivers that fantastically well. I think Office Space will even stand up to further repeat viewings. I definitely recommend Office Space.
Me too. I like with Gary, first time I watched this, wasn't excited by it. Didn't think it was that good. On watching it again, more experience with workspaces and things like that, you just see all these extra tropes that you've probably seen yourself in your own workplace as well. I'm glad that this film isn't a smash hit. I'm glad it wasn't a smash hit when it first came out. I'm so glad that it has a cult backing, it has a cult following. It picks up a few more people every year. More people say, "Oh, have you ever seen Office Space?" Yeah, I absolutely love that film. But you realise that not everybody can sit down and watch this. The only people who can really understand this film is people who have been in that situation. So, fucking A.
Fucking A.
Fucking A.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Excuse me. Excuse me. But okay, but that's the last straw.